Jim?
Is hell wants to know, it's not like Brett doesn't know the answer to this, but he's just being smart.
No, well, I'll deal with the hard ones.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the easy one.
Is hell reasonable? Yes, it is reasonable when you step back and you look at the big picture. And so the evangelical church right now is, when we talk about God, we so often emphasize the love of God to the exclusion of God's justice. And so we don't offer a full picture that really puts something like hell in the proper context where it is more reasonable and plausible. If God is just loving, and that's what we emphasize, then hell seems to be implausible. It seems to be unreasonable because God's loving, right? But God is not only loving, he's not only omnipotent, he's not only omniscient, but he's also just. And justice makes sense of something like hell. And in one sense, you can say, think about it, would you say that prison is a good thing? Well, there's a sense of prison that we would say, no, that's bad. But there's another sense where we'd say, well, actually, it's good. Because prison is a quarantine to take bad people who've done bad things and quarantine them from the rest. And in the same way, hell is that. Hell is a quarantine for those who want to pay for their own deeds themselves. And so if you want justice, you'll get it. If you want grace, well, that's offered as well, and you can receive that. So yes, I think when we step back and look at the context of the kind of God that we're talking about, when you get into the particulars of who God is, this helps us to make sense of a place like hell and how it's reasonable to think that there is a real place called hell.
And think about this for a second. We all talk about love. We fail to define it. And so we have a kind of cultural definition of love, which is very sentimental, right? Yeah. It's affection, it's kindness, it's compassion. But most of us who are parents in this room recognize another dimension of love that we have to use all the time with our kids. It's a form of tough love, where we have to withhold something in order for the long-term benefit of our kids. I've got adult children who I see making choices, and if a choice is being made that I don't agree with, my first inclination is I'll just pay for that, just fix that problem. But no, if I fix that problem, I'm not gonna help this child. I'm simply gonna reinforce bad behavior. Instead, I'm gonna withhold that payment, let them struggle, pay for it their own way, and they're gonna learn something out of that. Tough love, you cannot divorce. Justice and mercy are not two distinct attributes of God. They're the same attribute of God, two sides of the same coin. If I said to my son, I love you more than anyone, you mean all the world to me, and then I drive down the street and see a bank robber running out of a building, I say, stop, I love you more than anyone. You mean more than the world to me. My son's gonna realize that my mercy, my expression of mercy is an empty platitude because I'm not just in the way I administer it. So mercy without justice is just a platitude. And justice without mercy is torture. One of the other things I think about when it comes to hell, though, is we also have a cultural definition of hell, which is not a biblical definition of hell. For example, are there different levels of punishment in hell? Can you make a biblical case for various levels of punishment in hell? I've written an article on this, I think you can. So I don't expect that my unknowing grandmother who never accepted the gospel is treated the same way as Hitler. The word torture is not in Scripture. The word torment is in Scripture. You can be tormented by simply making a bad decision without any physical pain at all. So some of us will experience the torment of eternal separation from God. Some will experience more. And I think you can make a case for that from Scripture. And if that is the definition of what hell is, I think what we assume is that everyone gets the same punishment in hell. And so therefore, it's not fair that my loving friend who's not a Christian is treated the same way as a serial killer who's been cursing God his entire life. But I don't think you can actually make that case from Scripture.